Dallas, Texas, a city built on cattle, cotton, and oil money, has become modernized beyond recognition. But if you know where to look, the past still lingers. Vintage brick buildings loom in the shadow of glassy skyscrapers, reminders of a bygone era. One of those places is Old Parkland Hospital. A century ago, it was a place of birth, death, suffering, and healing. Today, it's been reborn as a luxury campus. But no amount of money can ever pave over what once happened behind those walls. I'm your host, Dan David. Welcome to City of Nightmares. Dallas, Texas sits at the intersection of ambition and reinvention. Founded in 1841, the city rose to prominence as a trading post along the Trinity River. It gained a railroad in the 1870s, which sparked economic growth and population booms that would carry it through the 20th century. From agriculture to oil to finance and tech, Dallas has always thrived on its ability to transform. By the start of the 1900s, Dallas had become one of the most influential cities in the American South. It was a major cotton trading hub and had the wealth to invest in public infrastructure, including schools, fire stations, and hospitals. Healthcare, in particular, became a growing concern as the population swelled. Diseases like tuberculosis, typhoid, and influenza plagued the city. Many early medical facilities were underfunded or overcrowded and largely segregated. That began to change in 1894, when the city of Dallas opened the first Parkland Hospital. It was built on land donated by a local physician and was named after the park-like surroundings of the area. The original structure was wooden, small, and quickly overwhelmed by demand. Just a few years later, a new facility was commissioned. In 1913, a larger brick building was completed at the corner of Maple and Oak Lawn Avenues. It was this site that would become known as Old Parkland. At the time, it was a cutting-edge facility for Dallas. The hospital featured surgical suites, isolation wards, a psychiatric wing, a nurse's dormitory, and even a school of nursing. It served not only as the city's public hospital, but also as a training center for medical students. Parkland treated tens of thousands of patients over the decades. Some were local residents, others were transported by wagon or early ambulance from outlying communities. The hospital handled everything from childbirth to emergency trauma care to long-term tuberculosis treatment. Entire generations were born, healed, or buried after passing through its halls. By the 1940s and 50s, however, the building was aging and struggling to keep up with the needs of a growing population. A new Parkland Memorial Hospital was built in 1954 near Harry Hines Boulevard, and the original structure was gradually phased out. Some of the buildings were used for administrative functions or low-priority services for a few years, but eventually, Old Parkland was boarded up and left to decay. Over the decades that followed, the red brick structure became a curiosity. Windows shattered, paint peeled, trees grew through cracks in the pavement. Urban explorers found ways inside and took photos of rusting medical equipment and crumbling staircases. Vagrants and squatters were occasionally found in the wings, but mostly the building just sat, silent and slowly rotting. Yet, despite the quiet, some said it wasn't empty. The decades of abandonment allowed myths to flourish. Rumors of paranormal activity began to circulate in the 1970s and continued through the 2000s. Stories varied, Some told of lights turning on in the middle of the night. Others swore they saw movement behind the third-floor windows, long after the building had been locked down. While no official investigations were conducted by the city, urban legends persisted. Local teenagers would dare one another to sneak inside after dark. Ghost hunting blogs began including the site in most haunted lists for Dallas. Even some police officers patrolling the area at night reported odd sensations while circling the property, though these anecdotes were never part of any formal report. There's historical context for some of the building's darker energy. Parkland was on the front lines during multiple public health crises. During the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, for instance, Dallas was overwhelmed by infection rates. Temporary morgues were set up across the city, and Old Parkland was reportedly forced to convert lower levels into storage areas for the dead. The hospital's psychiatric wing also saw its share of grim stories. Treatments in the early 20th century were far from humane by today's standards. Restraint methods, early forms of electroshock therapy, and isolation rooms were commonly used. While these were standard practices at the time, they've left a dark historical legacy, one that lends itself to ghost stories, especially when combined with decades of abandonment. By the late 1990s, the building had become a serious liability. Several restoration efforts were proposed and failed. Preservationists argued for saving it, but investors balked at the cost. That changed in 2006, when Crow Holdings, a private investment firm founded by real estate magnate Trammell Crow, purchased the campus. The decision to redevelop the site was met with both praise and skepticism. Rather than demolish the structure, Crow Holdings committed to preserving and restoring the historic brick hospital. The firm spent over $60 million transforming Old Parkland into what they called a campus for ideas. The space was intended for elite business leaders, think tanks, and policy organizations. Today, the Old Parkland campus includes high-end office space, a conference center, art galleries, and statuary. The original 1913 building remains intact, its red brick restored, its interior modernized. The site even includes a subterranean debate chamber styled after Plato's Academy. It's a far cry from its original use, but the past remains close at hand. Though the restoration is widely considered a success architecturally, the building's long history of pain and loss isn't something easily erased. While public access is limited, Old Parkland is private property. Those who have worked or visited the site occasionally share uneasy stories. One local historian who toured the property said he felt an unexplainable heaviness in the main hallway. A contractor involved in the early restoration reportedly left the project after experiencing repeated nausea and migraines only while inside. These accounts aren't verified, but they're passed around by those familiar with the building's backstory. More than one employee has commented on the building's nighttime atmosphere. Despite the luxurious furniture and glowing chandeliers, something about the old stairwells and shadowed corners still feels clinical, sterile in a way that never fully left. It's difficult to prove the paranormal, but it's just as difficult to dismiss the emotional residue that clings to a place where tens of thousands suffered, recovered, or died. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, Old Parkland is proof that history has weight, and sometimes that weight lingers within the walls. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of City of Nightmares, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. New episodes premiere every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Join me this Friday for a special Independence Day episode. We're heading to the heart of the nation's capital to explore one of America's most haunted historic homes, the Octagon House in Washington, D.C., a place tied to war, death, and secrets buried in the very foundation of the country. For more horror content, follow me on TikTok and X at Nope2Creepy. Until next time, dear listener, this is Dan David, reminding you all to stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next episode.
Nope.